Again, this is alcohol and drug use in college students. Once again, my name is Angel Ayala. I'm the veteran counselor at Tarrant County College Trinity River campus. And joining me today is my co-presenter, Mr. Chris Hunt, our veteran counselor at Tarrant County College Northeast campus. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here with you guys. Y'all, listen, I want to tell you a little bit about Angel. He's a very humble person. He has got a lot of experience when it comes to, first of all, he's a veteran. Second, he's a licensed chemical dependency counselor and a licensed professional counselor. And so he is bringing with him a ton of substance abuse experience. And so I'm just stoked to be here with him. I'm glad that he invited me to come along for the ride today. It's a topic that we both feel strongly about for several reasons, one of which is this is one of the things, if you happen to get sick with substance abuse, it is something that you definitely can recover from and get better. So anyway, that's just a little bit more about Angel, and we're excited to be here with you.
Thank you, Chris. You are very kind. Thank you so much. Y'all, I did not pay him a dime to say that. But anyway, thank you so much. We'll just jump right in. So these are a few things that we're going to talk about today. Once again, talking about drug use in college students. We're going to talk about why do we do it? Why do we drink or use drugs? We're also going to talk about how do we know if it's starting to become a problem for us? We're going to talk about what can it possibly hurt? We're going to go over some alcohol facts. We're going to go over some drug facts. We're going to talk about some consequences. But most importantly, we're going to talk about some solutions, some coping strategies that we can regain and relive our success. So first of all, why do we drink or use drugs? Well, here's some reasons why students might consume alcohol or drugs. First of all, they might use it to enhance their mood. They might use it to help them cope with stress. A lot of people like to use it to maybe self-medicate, feel a little bit better about themselves. They might use it to fit in with their peers. Alcohol has been coined the social lubricant because it kind of releases inhibitions and helps people to relax. For many people, it's seen as a rite of passage for college students. So in some settings, mainly the four-year university settings where people go to college parties and things of that nature, alcohol is actually seen, and some drugs are seen as a rite of passage for becoming that age. Some people might notice that limited interactions with parents and other responsible adults could lend to an increase in drinking. So not having your parents or other responsible adults around might, allow those other influences to become stronger in your life. And also some students already have those habits before they come to college. So some students grow up in a situation where the family, it's kind of second nature for people to grow up drinking alcohol. They're very free with it, and then they just bring those habits to college. So why do we drink or use drugs? Well, two general types of motives have come up for college students. One is drinking for social purposes, and another one is drinking for emotional escape or relief. And so common reasons that were given by college students when they were asked in a survey, they said that they simply drank to get drunk or they simply used to get high. Other students said they did it to forget disappointments. Other students said they just wanted to feel good. And lastly, other students said they just wanted to get along better on dates or social gatherings. You can kind of see why alcohol is kind of coined the social lubricant. It kind of helps people get along better. So how do we know if it's a problem? Well, around 9% of full-time college students aged 18 to 22 actually meet the criteria for an alcohol use disorder. Many college alcohol problems are related to binge drinking. And so binge drinking is basically when you drink a lot of alcohol in a short period of time. So the medical definition for binge drinking is when it brings your blood alcohol concentration to a 0.08% or higher. So 0.08% is actually legally intoxicated. That's the legal limit. And one rule of thumb for that is for a typical adult, this pattern corresponds to consuming 5 or more drinks for a male or 4 or more drinks for a female in a short amount of time. That's within a few hours. What could it possibly hurt? On the average, about 1,825 college students between the ages of 18 and 24 die each year due to alcohol-related injuries. That's a lot. Alcohol and drugs, they can damage your organs. They can cause brain dysfunction, alter your perceptions, emotions, and senses, causing you to take dangerous or unnecessary risks, even lead to mental health disorders like depression. And another thing is that people who usually generally start using drugs or drinking during their college years are a lot more likely to develop a substance abuse problem later in life. Lastly, what can it hurt is drinking can also pose some serious health and safety risks. So including the car crashes, the drunk driving arrests, the sexual assaults, which are very serious, and other injuries. Over the long term, the frequent binge drinking can actually damage your liver and other organs and lead to premature death. So let's learn a little bit about the alcohol facts. I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Chris, would you like to talk about some facts?
Thank you, sir. So some of the facts just to be aware of: alcohol is a depressant. It depresses the central nervous system. And that starts obviously with the first drink or the first ingestion. It has no nutritional value and lots of calories. When I read that on the slide earlier, I think everybody's aware that it has a lot of calories. But the whole part about no nutritional value stuck out to me as kind of a big deal. In low doses, it creates a feeling of warmth and lowered inhibitions. A couple of slides back, Angel was talking about avoiding emotions. And so I tend to kind of refer to when you start to move over towards the problematic side of drinking and taking drugs, emotional anesthesia. And so that's that warm, fuzzy feeling. In higher doses, it can have serious consequences. Just remember that whenever you drink, it's beginning to depress your central nervous system. And so that's a steady decline as the more you consume. 1 out of every 3 colleges, more than half of the students engage in binge drinking. And again, Angel defined that a couple of slides back. Next, please. In surveys, college students who took an opioid for reasons other than pain relief, so if not a toothache or a broken bone, but to get high or to experiment just to see how it felt to be on an opiate, had a much greater risk of experiencing 3 or more drug use related problems than those who did not. And so it projects that there's going to be a problem later. No good can come from this. That's really what I want to say. I hate to sound like an old guy, but at the end of the day, opiates are highly addictive, highly, highly addictive. And one of the things that you got to know is unless you have, even if you have a prescription, I'm not a doctor, but if you have a prescription, take it as prescribed. Once the pain goes away, get off the opioids, because they are very, very addictive, and it will sneak up on you and clamp onto you before you really know what's happened. Students that take prescription drugs for non-medical reasons are 5 times more likely to develop a drug abuse problem than those who don't. Next, please. There isn't a safe drug. Using different types of drugs, alcohol or prescription drugs, marijuana or other illegal drugs in combination with each other is especially dangerous. It has what we call a synergistic effect. Many of these substances have similar effects. So once they combine, again, the synergy happens or the multiplication happens. For example, pain relievers and alcohol both slow breathing. So by ingesting them together, someone can literally stop breathing. And all of us, pun intended, are addicted to oxygen. Next slide, please. So you can see the consequences. They call it a cascade. I would probably refer to it more as an escalation. But you see in the beginning, the Venn diagram with alcohol, drug use, and mental health. There's what's referred to as the intermediary process. And so those are the kind of things that, can be quasi-normal. It's normal to skip a class from time to time. studying less. There's going to be times where, people study less, but if it's encouraged or moved along, or alcohol is the catalyst of it, that's where you have to start paying attention to it. Decreased motivation. If alcohol is a depressant, obviously you are going to have a relative relationship with decreased motivation. Sleep. Sleep is something that is near and dear to my heart. Someone who I have had dealings with insomnia, and so the ability to just lay down and go to sleep because you're tired is wonderful. And for me, anything that interrupts that is something that I want to avoid. And just know that in the intermediary process, that's part of one of the things that can be affected. Cognitive problems, thinking. It will interfere with your thinking. The short-term manifestations, you'll see your GPA going back at times, dropping classes, not because there's an emergency or you got deployed or something like that happened, but dropping classes because you've come to the mathematical conclusion that there's no way to pass it. And then lost opportunities, internships, work, and special study opportunities. And the long-term outcomes, delayed graduation or failure to graduate, dropping out of school, attenuation of goals, not being ready for new or different employment, and being underemployed. Next, please. So COVID-19 has affected people, and I was talking with Angel earlier today, and one of the things that we discussed was last week with the snowstorm really brought this to a pinpoint. It was bad enough already with the lingering and ongoing physical distancing that we have to do. But last week, without power in some cases, and without water in some cases, and without both in some cases, really put the pressure on them and brought things home in the dark, at home, in your house, by yourself. One of the most reliable recipes for depression is at home, alone, in your head. And then you add to it these safety factors that are, it's cold out, you don't have power, you don't have water. All of those things added together make the pressure even worse. So as a result of the isolation in 2020, reports of depression and increased along with the rise in alcohol sales. So obviously what jumps off the page at me is alcohol is a depressant. We have more people drinking and more depression. Although I would wager that those two things can be separated, that the depression was increasing with or without the alcohol. By the end of March 2020, there'd been a 54% increase in alcohol sales. Let me read that to you again. A 54% increase in alcohol sales. Compared with the year before, and online sales increased 262% from 2019. So 54 alcohol sales, and then online sales increased 262%. Over 81,000 drug overdose deaths occurred in the United States in the 12 months ending in May 2020. That's the highest number of overdose deaths ever recorded in a 12-month period, according to the recent provisional data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Next, please. So we want to talk about what's the antidote. We're clear on what the problem is, and we're doing really good for time. And so I want to focus on, and Angel, jump in where you see appropriate, the antidote. What are some ways to cope? And so, again, a couple of things that I want to say up front. In private practice, I don't make many guarantees at all. There are two things that I will tell you that I will guarantee you. The first is attempting to control the uncontrollable will make you sick and crazy. So knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't control is really important. And the second thing I already mentioned, and that's the piece about a very certain recipe. If you start with a healthy human being and you have that person at home alone in their head, is going to be a near certain recipe for depression.
Absolutely.
So those are the two things that we're working against here. COVID's pressing in, and then we had the weather press in, and then we had utilities failing all around us. And so those two things, I'm very confident that people were experiencing, depressive conditions, if not just emotions, in addition to anxiety, frustration, and feeling out of control. And so these things that we're talking about, not just, I have a good friend, Amanda Franklin. She says that we shouldn't worry so much about social distancing. We should remain socially connected. We should be physically distant so as not to pass the virus on to one another. Mindfulness. There are a lot of good meditations out there. The loving kindness meditation is one that they took some monks and they got a baseline scan on them, and then they asked them to begin to recite the loving kindness meditation, and the part of their brain that's in charge of emotion ignited. And so it makes me smile that they connected a spiritual activity with science and can demonstrate it regularly and reliably. So there are a lot of good things. Another part of being mindful is don't tell yourself to shut up. I know we have these feelings, and we live in kind of a suck it up buttercup world. And so I want to encourage you not to tell yourself to shut up. Certainly, I don't want my emotions to be in charge. I don't want them running my show. At the same time, feelings are designed to tell you something important. And so we do need to pay attention to what they're saying. Part of mindfulness is simply acknowledging I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm feeling frustrated right now. I'm feeling sad or depressed. And maybe you want to take a deeper look and see, why am I feeling those things? Some of it could be purely circumstantial. I'm sitting in my living room by myself in the dark with no water and no electricity. It gets real dark and real quiet quick. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. That sends me into a pretty calm state. But for a lot of people, it makes them anxious. It makes them feel out of control. I guess that's just the Minnesota part of me and the part of me that lived in Alaska where it was dark all winter. So mindfulness, acknowledge the feeling. Don't tell yourself to shut up. Maintaining a healthy support system. Again, that's the part where we talked about being socially connected but physically distant. There's a whole bunch of different ways of maintaining healthy support systems, but that's one of the pluses of having, technology at our hands is we can reach out and text somebody anytime. Some of my closest friends live in Anchorage, Ruidoso, New Mexico, Destin, Florida, and did I say Anchorage already? And then there's another guy in New Hampshire, and these are all friends that I've had for 25 and 30 years. And so, no, I can't just bump over there for a cup of coffee, but those guys are at the ready. If I send them a text and say, hey, you got a minute? They're more than happy to touch base with me. So you want to maintain connectivity with other human beings. Again, physically separated, socially connected. Physical exercise. Now, what I've learned about me with physical exercise is even if I'm super tired and I get up and I go do the movements that I have planned for that day, it ends up being a better day than if I take the extra hours of sleep, okay? Now, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I very much value sleep too. So I'm not saying let's live on burn the candle at both ends, which is another problem that we tend to have now that we're all or mostly working from home is it's very, very difficult to have a balance of work and life. And in order to be healthy, we have to balance that. So the physical exercise part, what I notice is if I take a rest day, which is normal, that's fine. And if I take 2 rest days, that's okay. But by the 3rd day, what I notice is I'm easily frustrated. I'm impatient, and small things where I would normally have a margin of irritability that, I'd be able to absorb things with no problem at all of a sudden, turn into these larger issues. And that's simply because I haven't done the things that I needed to do to take care of myself so that I could handle what's happening circumstantially around me. So that's the part about physical exercise. It can be simple. You don't have to join the Marines in order to do physical exercise. You can get out, go for a walk. If the only time you get out is when you go to the mailbox, we'll go to the end of the block and then pick the mail up on the way back. You can push that all the way to jump roping's pretty intense. You can do what the Marines do, sit-ups, push-ups, and pull-ups. That doesn't cost you anything. And if there's a safe place to do it, I'll always encourage you to get on a bicycle because, you're by yourself and it's COVID safe. And it's also going to be good for your muscles as well as your O2.
Absolutely. So, Chris, do you mind if I chime in on
please do.
Physical exercise? There are just so many good benefits to that physical exercise. One of the things I like about it is when you physically exercise, you release endorphins into the brain, which are like a naturally healthy, feel-good feeling that you're doing for yourself. Not to mention the fact that, physical exercise makes you or can make you look better, which makes you feel better about yourself. So lots of good benefits to physical exercise.
Absolutely. All good points. Thank you, Angel. Disconnecting from screens and devices. Okay. So how many of us are guilty of waking up in the night and checking email or looking at Facebook or Instagram or what have you? Hesitate to mention Snapchat, but that's a part of the gig too. I give my kids a hard time all the time with that. But there are we have the word distressing on there. And so we have repeated projections of and communications of distressing information. And when I say distressing, I largely want to frame that up as things that are beyond our control. We don't have any direct control of the things that are going on. I don't have any direct control of when the electricity comes back. I don't have any control over when the water's turned back on. I don't have any control over other people's thoughts, feelings, and opinions. And so those things that are repeatedly presented to us, we do have a choice and we do have the power to turn those things off. And so it's easier to get recruited and to participate in negativity than it is positive things. And so if you're hearing these messages over and over again, and if there's some people you need to separate from using your technology, I'd encourage you to do that as well. Sometimes we need to turn the news off. Recently, I've really pretty much watched the weather forecast and then I'm just about done. So that's something that I would encourage you in as well. Some other remedies, plugging into community resources. And in a minute, Angel's going to share some pretty cool ones with you. 12-step programs. I will tell you from clinical and personal experience that 12-step programs are good for you, even if you're addicted to nothing more than oxygen. A good self-examination and an honest dose of reality and an acceptance and realizing some places where you can grow in humility. Those are all things that I've experienced from working 12 steps, as well as being around others that are actively working 12 steps, because it's contagious. When somebody's got a good, strong vat or a jar of positive spirituality and energy going on inside them, it's irresistible. It's hard to stay away from. So there's substance use or mental health counseling and substance use and mental health treatment. So the distinction that I would make from that without going into a huge long thing is counseling is pretty much, kind of a once a week thing, once every couple of weeks. If you need more support than that, then you probably need an intensive outpatient level of care, which means you're going to spend roughly 10 hours a week, usually outpatient at a facility. And then the residential or mental health treatment, the residential part of that, I'm sorry, I know I looped over there. Anyway, residential or day patient means that you would either spend all day at a treatment center or a mental health in a place and go home at night. And then if you were a residential patient, you would stay there for a period of time until they recognize that you are appropriate to step down to a lower level of care. So if you need those things, please don't hesitate. It's a whole lot more relieving and healing to say, hey man, I need some help, than the energy that it takes to try and pretend that you don't.
Yes.
Angel, you were going to say something?
Yes, just a quick note about the solutions and coping strategies that we listed today. These are just ones that we thought would be some of the best suited for the content that we had, but there are just so many solutions out there, so many coping strategies out there. The key to finding them is to just get out there and try different things, because what might work for Chris may not necessarily work great for me, and vice versa. He might really love mindfulness, and I might really love maintaining a healthy support system along with my exercise, or things of that nature. So everyone's a little bit different, and I think the idea is to just try different ones.
I'm noticing in the chat that Jennifer put setting boundaries, and I want to add to that. That makes me smile. No is a complete sentence, and so boundary setting, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, good one. That's a good one. Thank you, Jennifer. So talking about community resources, we have a great one that we love to talk about, and that's Recovery Resource Council. So this is a nonprofit place in our community here in Fort Worth, and they specialize in treatment options for people without insurance. And those are typically the places that are hardest to find. So what they do is they do screenings for individuals. So if you know of anyone who might need or needs to find out if they have a problem or find treatment or any type of thing like that, you can always refer them to Recovery Resource Council. They will do a screening there for them to see what level that they'll need. And if they don't have any insurance, they'll help them to find a place that can help them get recovery. And so we always love to hear about those places. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of places out there that take insurance, plenty of those places, and they can refer you to those places as well. So the Recovery Resource Council is also a referral source, and they refer people out to a lot of different places. So that's a great place. Another thing we want to talk about today is that Tarrant County College actually has a student-led organization called Students in Recovery. Just want to give a quick statement about that. So their mission is to provide a supportive community where students can recover and in hopes of recovery can achieve academic success while enjoying a genuine college experience free from alcohol and drugs. And their focus is to provide connection in a time where disconnection is easy. So they are located primarily at the Northeast campus. And if you want to find them or join them, you can actually find them on Blackboard. So if you go to Blackboard and go to organizations and you go to Northeast campus, you can find, you'll actually want to join, click to join, enroll in the Northeast Students in Recovery. And if you enroll in that, as soon as you enroll, you'll be able to start getting their updates. And so you can attend their virtual meetings, which I have attended one. They're really awesome. And so I encourage you to do that.
In the chat, Angel, there's a big smiley face. Miss Jindal said, I thought she said, yes, sir, but she was saying, yes, sir is an amazing organization.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. And Angela is an amazing instructor and she runs our program over at the Northeast campus. The mental health and social work programs that they have over there are amazing. And I believe she's also the instructor over the Students in Recovery. I could be wrong, but
faculty advisor.
Advisor, excuse me. Yes, the advisor over Students in Recovery. Yes. Yes, advisor. Thank you, Angela. And next, we want to talk about something very important to us. That is DASH. And so we have our very own Mr. Tim Kaysen, who's going to tell us a little bit about our DASH program here at Tarrant County College. Tim, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank y'all so much for this presentation and information. I know it's definitely needed and helpful, especially given the times that we're dealing with. And so I know Chris bragged on Angel at the beginning. I'll brag on both, saying that they're both great professionals with a lot of experience that are really ready to serve our students. I was invited today just to touch on DASH and our DASH prevention squads across the district. And so each campus does have a DASH prevention squad. This is a new initiative as of this year, but it's a program that's been around for a while, specifically associated with our Southeast campus. And what DASH stands for is alcohol, sex, harassment, and hazing. And this organization is a prevention initiative that specifically promotes healthy behaviors for students. And so we do comprehensive and intentional programming throughout the year. Right now in this virtual setting, we're obviously planning for the entire district, just one event around these topics throughout the year, or several about these topics throughout the year. But once we move back to in-person, it'll actually become campus specific. And so Trinity River will plan for Trinity River and so forth. I put on there the link for you all if you're interested in checking out the calendar. On that webpage is where they will list our calendar information. And so make sure you check that out. I think right now it may show blank because after last week, we're doing some shuffling and reordering things. And so just in for that soon. And it'll have a list of all of the events we have coming up for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate that. Or thank you, Tim. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for giving us the rundown of DASH. And so that's something that we can all keep an eye out for. Thank you for letting us know about the event offerings, and we can stay up to date on when those will be coming up. We just want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you so much, Chris. You're an awesome co-presenter. You just have so much knowledge that you've had. I know you've been working in the drug and alcohol field for quite some time, and so I just appreciate you joining this presentation and giving us your knowledge and your time. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone who came to this presentation. Thank you so much for supporting this. In the way that we do this is we just partner together in supporting our students. We partner in being there for our students in any way that they need us. And in one way that they need us is through our counseling workshops, being there for them when they have issues that come up. And we understand that drug and alcohol is an issue that comes up for people of the college age. And so we just thank you so much for your support. We do ask that if you do get a moment, please take a moment to fill out that survey. Your input is very valuable to us. We thank you so much for being here. And I think we have a few minutes. Do we have any questions from anyone?
Yeah, if you'll go ahead and put them in the chat, I'll try and read those, and I'll give Angel first crack at answering those questions.